Hey, welcome back to Shasta Speaks. And I want to talk about a case out of Detroit, Michigan, um, that involves a would be 13-year-old young lady by the name of Naziah Harris. This case, I know I'm going to have to do a few videos. Heads up that I am going to do a few videos on this. This initial video is just going to be a quick kind of introduction of what we know, kind of an all roll up of what we currently know as it pertains to Naziah Harris and her missing, and um, the fact that the authorities in Detroit are um, stating that, there's reason to believe that she has been unalived, and they have charged the man on the screen, which his name is Jarvis Butts, with her unaliving. Um, and there's just a lot of, there's so many moving parts to this case. There's so many um, people involved. There's so many inconsistencies. It's one of those cases that you find yourself going down a rabbit hole of information about. And so that's why I say it will take a few videos to really if do a deep dive into everything involving Naziah Harris, which is the beautiful young lady on the screen. Okay, so Naziah went missing. The last day that anyone saw Naziah was January 9th, 2024. She went to school. Um, she went to school. Um, she used some type of tablet thing at school where she sent a text message to Jarvis Butts, which is the accused, and stated they were supposed to be meeting or getting together that evening. Um, that afternoon, she got off the school bus where she typically does and went walking back towards, got off the bus where she typically does. I think there was some footage of her walking down the street, and then that's it. That's the last time anyone sees her. The grandmother, which the grandmother's name is Annette Harris. And let me back up. Let me say this because I didn't give my disclaimer. All things discussed on this channel are alleged and are in my very own opinion, therefore entertainment purposes only. And also copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Okay, so the grandmother, which was Annette Harris, that's who Naziah lived with. There were other children in the household too. I think the grandmother was a foster parent, so I think there were some foster children in the house, maybe. But the foster children may have been Naziah, and I know she at least had a brother. She had a brother. I'm not sure what the relation was to the other children that were in the house, though. She did not report Naziah missing the night that she didn't come home. That little small piece of information has always bothered me because it's like at the time we're talking about a 12-year-old little girl and you you do not go and file a missing persons report immediately the night, they literally went to sleep that night knowing that this young lady was missing, which blows my mind because how do you sleep? How do you sleep knowing that this little girl is not in the house? And keep in mind that Annette Harris, the grandmother, is her maternal grandmother. That is her mother's mother. Okay. Keep in mind that this little girl has never did had a situation where she skipped school or was missing from school or anything like that. So it was not common for her not to come home when she was supposed to. Okay. So the next day, the grandmother goes and reports that the girl didn't come home to the Detroit Public Schools Police Department. So the public schools, from what I'm gathering, the public schools have some kind of department, I guess, where they investigated. I guess if I think about it, maybe a department that's like handles like, I guess if I think about truancy or kids who don't show up for school or um runaways. I get that. That's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm not sure. But they have their own something in at the schools where they investigate things. Well, that department um did not get it, were not able to figure out what was going on, but they held the case. The case was with them from when it was reported on January 10th all the way up until February 14th. That's crazy to me by itself. So from January for like almost a whole month, the Detroit Police Department, the actual police department, were not involved. Um, some other things about the day that Naziah went missing. Um, she took one last picture of herself on that tablet. Um, she supposedly, what was said is that when she got off the bus, she met up with Butts and a co-worker, and they ended up going back to, because he had an auto repair shop, and they ended up going back to his auto repair shop in Detroit. Um, Butts' sister saw Naziah at the shop. Okay, but the co-worker and Naziah were all together in the co-worker's car on that day. And they're able to tell that because Bud's phone, they pinged his phone and it placed him at these locations. From 9:30 that night until 12:20, he was checked into a motel. And so there's a receipt that confirms that he was at a motel from 9:30 to 12:20. Naziah was never seen again, though. Jarvis Butts is someone who's known to Naziah because he is the father of her aunt's children. She has an aunt by the name of Shannon who has fathered, I think it's 4 or 5 children with Jarvis. From all accounts, it seems as though Jarvis started this inappropriate relationship with Naziah very early on, because there is multiple texts that were sexually explicit that began in September of 2022. And I think that's just when the text started. Who knows when the, inappropriate relationship really started. They were sending each other very provocative messages in the text. It definitely was a situation where he groomed her. He groomed her from a very early age. And she felt like she was in a relationship with this man. And he is like 40, 41 or something like that. Another thing to make note of is that Jarvis had done prison time previously for having an inappropriate situation with the little girl. That landed him 10 years, I think. He had done 10 years in prison for that. And from what I understand, Shannon, the aunt, allegedly knew that Jarvis was a registered sex offender and things like that, and what his charges were and all of that. And so that within itself is also a red flag, because she knew exactly who he was and what he had done, and she still chose to, one, have him around her younger nieces and nephews when because he's a registered sex offender, he was not supposed to be around them. And also went about the business of having her own children with him. During the course of this inappropriate relationship that Mr. Butts was having with Naziah, it is seen in the text messages that supposedly she did not have her period, and she had told him that she was pregnant, which is where the state is coming with the idea and stating that they feel like he unalived her while trying to do some type of makeshift AB abortion. They think that they saw where his search engine on his phone, internet browser history or whatever, and they found where he was, searching all kinds of how to do AB abortions. He was searching about AB abortion pills. He was searching about how to drink red antifreeze to, AB or a baby. And so that's what's leading the prosecutors to believe that he was trying to do something like that and may have unintentionally, maybe, unalived her in the process. The factors that they outline to where they're stating, because they're charging him with first degree premeditated unaliving, and that's one of his charges. And the reason why the factors that they have that are pointing to that is that they don't have any school records, like, of her ever going back to school this whole time. She was very active on social media before January 9th, which is true. I've seen numerous videos. She was very present on social media. She's had no contact with any family or friends since then, since January 2024. They feel she didn't have any medical issues that would cause a life-threatening medical emergency. And they said that there was an area known to Butts where they found clothing and identified that it's consistent with her clothing. And they said that it also had damage to a piece of the found clothing that could have indicated a struggle. I also know that there was her school ID with her, or either her school ID or a bus pass. But it had her picture on it, and it was face down on the ground. And someone ended up finding that as well. And so the speculation is that she is, has been unalived. At this point, it's been over a year. We're coming up on what, 14, 15 months. I would be hard pressed to think that she is alive somewhere. The only way that she's alive somewhere is if someone literally came and got her and put her in hiding or something like that. I can't imagine that for this amount of time she would just be out in the world, especially with the publicity and notoriety that this case has gotten, especially on social media. On all the social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Oh my gosh, TikTok has got so many things out there. Over here on YouTube, it's a lot of information out there. So I do think that most likely, something happened to her. Now, where it gets into the gray is all of the underlying behind the scenes information that has started coming out about the family, and the history of the family, and the fact that this, sexual abuse and things like that are things that apparently run rampant in this family. And it's common, and it's a known issue. And, that's the part of this story that really gets deep, and it has a lot of moving parts. And, I'll try to, break it up and just kind of come back with videos of like different parts of it, because there's like, interviews and things that were done by other content creators that uncovered a lot of information about this family. I'm telling you, it is just mind blowing. You hear about certain things that go on in families, but this is just like, whoa. That's the best way I can put it. It's like, whoa, to the point to where people are calling for the arrest of several of the family members. People feel like, and allegedly people feel like Shannon or Annette, the grandmother, allegedly may have had something to do with what happened to this child, or they know way more than they're telling. Is one of the things that stood out when they did the preliminary hearing when they arrested Jarvis, and everybody was testifying and things. The person that busted this wide open, I think, for the police was Jarvis's sister, because when it, you know, started airing, I think she said, I'd have to go back and listen to her testimony, but she remembered seeing this child down there at that garage, and and she's the one that kind of went and said something to the police or called the police or whatever. And I think up until then, Jarvis had been lying and saying he hadn't seen that girl. And so the sister, Jarvis's own sister, is the one that kind of busted open the case. And it's just like, damn, his sister came forward, but it seems like her family and the people that should have been protecting her were busy trying to protect him, because that's what it was given. A lot of when the grandmother testified in the prelim hearing, she did it unemotional. She wasn't distraught. She was so calm and collected and just very matter of fact. And it was just like, wow. I'm not saying you got to get up there and put on a show, but a little bit of compassion for your granddaughter goes a long way. And that lady didn't have none. I'm just trying to tell you, looking at her, it was like, okay, all right. Same thing with the aunt, Shannon. Like, they was just, it's weird. This is a very weird case. Um, it's telling that also they used to let her go down to this man's shop under the guise of helping him clean up at the shop. But this man has children. He has sons, I think. And my whole thing is, as a mother, if I had a daughter, I don't care who it is. I don't care what man it is. My baby girl's not gonna be down there at no dang auto shop, cleaning up no auto shop with a whole bunch of men. I come from the era of little girls don't sit on men's laps or none of that. So I know good and well, it's no way no man gonna be able to call me and say, hey, can you send so and so down here to help me at the shop? I'm popping immediately off. What? No, she's not coming to do what? She's a girl. She's not coming to no damn auto shop. So that was the worst. That was the first red flag for me, that something was up with the family as a whole, because why would y'all allow her to be down there at that shop with these grown men? Another thing that came up in the prelim hearing is that another little girl that was in the family witnessed Naziah being essayed at the body shop with him, or auto repair shop with him. She saw it, and he tried to get her to do something as well. And I think she was like 9. And she testified to that, to him trying to get her to do it. And she would not do it. But it's deep, y'all. It runs deep. This story is, It's so much. It's just so much. I'm getting ready to end this because I'm just, like I said, this story you have to do in small doses because it's too much. The only other thing I'm gonna say is Jarvis' business partner, who Desire was in the car with Jarvis on the last day, he testified too, and I don't trust him because again, as a man, y'all didn't see nothing wrong with this little girl being at this shop with him, and you're not gonna be able to tell me that you didn't witness nothing inappropriate. You're not gonna be able to tell me that. And this is a little girl that looks like a little girl. This ain't a little girl that looks like a grown woman. Like, this is a little girl who looks like a little girl, who has a little girl body. Like, it's a little girl. Like, I just, it's a lot. It's a lot with this story. And I'm anxious to see how it's gonna shake out. They've set his actual trial date for October 6th. They had a conference discussion or whatever on March the 7th. I think they have a final conference day for discussion or whatever. I think that's gonna happen June. I think it was June 25th or something like that. It's gonna be June 20th or 25th. Yeah, June 20th is when the final conference is gonna happen. And they don't have the actual court date starting until October 4th or 6th or something like that, which seems so far off, but anyway, but yeah, and so he's charged with what he did with her. He's also charged with actually abusing two other kids under the age of 13 at the time of the ABUs. Yeah, and now these people are adults now that he's getting charged with as well. But it's so sad. It's just a really, really sad situation when you think about the family dynamic and the fact that no one was protecting this girl. No one was protecting this girl, and they pretty much welcomed him in and let him have free reign with her. And like I said, he groomed her. She felt like they were in a full-fledged relationship. In my next video on this, I think I will probably talk about because they read off a lot of the text messages between him and her. So I'll probably talk about the text messages that paint the picture of the type of relationship that this little girl had with this grown man. And probably a little more about the family background and some of the information that I've gotten from 7 Mile Radio is the podcast that was like clocked in on this in the very beginning and had tons of interviews. There's tons of interviews that I think his name is Mark DeAndre did. His podcast is 7 Mile Radio. He's been on this from the beginning. He's there in Detroit, and he has been covering this from the beginning. And but mentally, you have to be prepared for this case. And it's one of those things. It's just like, wow. But it's a story that needs to be told because I do feel like our babies need to be protected. Our babies have to be protected, man. And you have to be able to see the warning signs. And man, like these women, some of these, y'all gotta stop. Y'all gotta stop being so desperate and hard up for a man that you just letting him get away with whatever. Because that's what this feels like. That's what it feels like, that they was just letting him do whatever just to have him around type of situation. So that's all I have for this for right now. Like I said, I'll be back. I'm not sure how many parts this whole Naziah Harris thing is going to be. And then, of course, when the trial picks up, I'm really going to be clocking that. But yeah, like the video, share the video, comment, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you are aware of this case, if you've been hearing about it. And if you have, what's your thoughts on it? And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure you subscribe. All right, y'all. I'll holler at you on the next one.